Hey everybody, I'm Captain Zeus and welcome to the Block Party where we go over everything nerd related. In today's video, we're going to go over the WandaVision episode 5 Easter eggs. We found about 43 of them. So after the intro here, you'll be able to see all the Easter eggs that we have. If you have not seen the latest WandaVision episode, this is a spoiler warning. Do not watch this video until you have already seen that episode. And if you're already seen the episode, right after this intro, you'll be able to see all the Easter eggs we got. So stay tuned. To start off, we have in the recap part of the episode, the dialogue changed from when Vision asked Wanda, hey, where did Geraldine go? Wanda originally said she had to rush home or she went home. Now it changed to she didn't belong here. She left, she didn't belong here, which is very interesting. Now, the intro itself and the episode as well does have a lot of 80s sitcom references. One goes from Family Ties, which the opening credits pan, to the paintings of the characters in the beginning. It also has the aging of the twins, Billy and Tommy. The aging of them is pretty significant because in a lot of sitcoms, you'll have a character be a certain age. Then the next episode of the next season, they'll jump a whole 5-10 years, whereas everyone else is still the same age. There's some growing pain references with the intro song lyrics. And as well as later on in the episode, Darcy refers to Vision as the father who knows best, which is a callback to the sitcom's first episode. There's also a Full House little reference there when the character's running towards the camera in the intro, similar to the Full House intro. Now, Wanda's pics in this intro, it has the actual pictures of Wanda, of the actress that plays Wanda, Elizabeth Olsen, but the backgrounds are photoshopped, so that way it has Sokovian backgrounds to them. Now, after the intro, you notice in certain parts of the episode, the light sources seem to have a red glow to it, which seems to be a little bit of a theme throughout this episode, the color red. Vision does mention as well earlier in this episode when he's holding Billy, he's talking about how he reads to him Darwin's Descent of Man, which is a possible mutant reference due to the book talks about human evolution. Later on, Agnes pops up and she refers to herself as Auntie Agnes, which in the intro of episode 2, you do see in the back, it says Auntie A's kitty litter. This is like a double reference here to Agatha Harkness and her cat itself. That's a little bit of something you may have missed. And something you may have also missed was Agnes doesn't bat an eye when the kids grow up right in front of her. First, when they grow up from babies to Todds, and then when they go from the Todds to kids. And then she also mentions, kids, you can't control them no matter how hard you try. That was a very specific phrase that she wanted to say. Could be Mephisto, could be completely different. We don't know. We do know that Billy and Tommy, they start to wear their comic book counterpart colors, with Billy having the blue theme and Tommy having the red theme there. Monica's eye exam, when we pop over to that part of the episode, it shows nothing but white on this blank screen, when it should show her insides or some part of her body. This could be a possible hint that her powers are unlocked due to what she already had going into the little Maximoff anomaly, or it could be that Wanda gave her powers. Either way, it's just an indication that she has powers at this point. Now, after that scene, you go into the recap with the sword agents, and right there on the, hollow table, you do see the sword emblem. Now, the sword emblem has 9 stars on it, with the sword being in the center of it as the center star. This could be a possible reference to the 9 realms, in Midgard, Earth, being in the center of it. Now, afterwards, when Jimmy's trying to defend Wanda, talking about her past and whatnot, we do see that Hayward confirms that something we kind of already knew, that she's not the Scarlet Witch in the MCU yet. She's just Wanda. So either this series or this phase, she's going to become the Scarlet Witch, from what we're guessing at. But afterwards, after Hayward becomes a big dick, Jimmy tells Darcy, hey, I'm not one to speak ill of another person, but, and then Darcy's like, I'll do it for you. Hayward is and then it cuts perfect editingly to him saying terrorists. This is a possible confirmation of what we've already suspected, that he is either an AIM or a Hydra, could be one of the same agent or, undercover guy. Basically like another Director Pierce from Winter Soldier. On that same table, we do see that Wanda is born the same year as Elizabeth Olsen, the actress, 1989. which the show, decade-wise, does take place in the 80s. So that is a really interesting thing to see. We do see on that table that Vision's body is broken down and looked to be dissected. Now, Hayward did mention in episode 4 that they're now into like AI and nanotech, all that kind of stuff. And then he also mentions in this episode that Vision's will, when he was alive, said he didn't want to be used as a weapon. However, when you see Vision's body broken down the way it was in this scene, it looks like they're dissecting him because his body parts are in multiple different parts of the table. So they're most likely going to be trying to use him as a weapon per against his original will, which that's kind of interesting because we already knew that his body only had the indentation in his head from when Thanos ripped the Mind Stone out of him. So they are definitely dissecting it. That scene also was from Wanda stealing Vision's body is the original Endgame deleted scene. And they were going to put it out in like the clips, but they didn't want to confirm that Vision was still around, so they kind of took it out of there. Sparky, right after this scene, we were introduced to the dog Sparky. His origin in the comics is that he's originally a dog named Zeke. The dog belongs to the Vision's neighbors, and he died when he accidentally dug up the Grim Reaper's corpse and was electrocuted by his scythe. Zeke's brain was then extracted from his body and used by Vision to model Sparky's brain patterns. Sparky was beaten to death by Virginia during a fit of blind rage. And that comic is Vision comic issue number 006 of the director cut by Tom King. Now, when we get introduced to Sparky and Vision sees him and he's crinkling the newspaper article, you notice that the title of it has a whole bunch of, talks about some stuff that's going on there, but when it's crinkled up onto his hand on his back, it says HOM. That's all it says, which is a definite reference to House of M, which is what this series has kind of already been based off of. Now, after this scene, we go back to, Monica and the crew talking about how they could possibly enter in the Maximoff anomaly, and Monica mentions an aerospace engineer that could possibly help her out with it. This could be a possible Fantastic Four reference to Sue Storm, because on the Spanish subtitles, when they mention the aerospace engineer, they use the female pronoun. I mean, it could be a completely different character, but from what we've seen, there's been a lot of possible Fantastic Four references, so it could be Sue Storm that she's mentioning, since they did confirm that they're making a Fantastic Four movie that will be coming out within the next couple of years. In this same scene, we do see that the mailman is identified. We don't see what the name is, but he is identified as, a regular citizen. Monica does mention that Wanda is more powerful than she lets on, with the Endgame reference saying that she could have beaten Thanos if it hadn't been for his blitz, which from what we've seen in this series, she's kind of becoming her comic book counterpart and becoming extremely powerful. They also mention that Captain Marvel's powers originated from a Infinity Stone, and then they talk about that she knows Captain Marvel, and she's like, we're not here to talk about Captain Marvel, this isn't about her, this is about Wanda. There could have been a possible falling out with Monica and Captain Marvel, we don't know, but Wanda is confirmed to rewrite reality with the bulletproof vest from Monica's bulletproof vest becoming her 80s clothes. We kind of already knew that she was rewriting reality, but we didn't know it was going to be sticking just until, right now. When Vision awakes Norm, he says, she's in my head, but doesn't specifically say who she is. It is implied that it's Wanda, but it could possibly be Agatha Harkness, aka Agnes, or it could be a complete third party, but it's definitely a she that is controlling everything. When we go to Billy and Wanda and them, Billy's training Sparky, but since they've only had Sparky for literally a couple of minutes, and you see him putting his hand on his temple, kind of Professor X style, it seems that he's training Sparky telepathically while telling him the commands. He does it, gives him the treat. Could indicate that Billy has access to his powers already, just like altering reality, that kind of stuff. And it was a little cool now that he's putting his hand on his temple like Professor X, a little possible mutant reference there. Later on, we do see that Monica does put a drone coming into the Maximoff anomaly to confirm, hey, we had drones in the 80s, in case people like myself didn't know that. Hayward again kind of pulls a Director Pierce and tries to eliminate Wanda. It was a little bit of a weird move there to try to eliminate her with civilians around her, Not necessarily a good guy approach, but seems to be a theme with Hayward and a little bit of some Hydra stuff going on there. When Wanda gets upset, she does pop out of the anomaly, and she's wearing her Avengers costume. And she has her original Sokovian accent from Age of Ultron. And that accent is thick. So definitely, and we see her in that costume as well when she goes to capture Vision. When she's directing the guns towards Hayward, she doesn't direct it towards Monica, which could signify that Wanda is being controlled by someone else, or it's all Wanda. Part of her knows that Monica is an ally and is someone good, whereas Hayward is definitely not with her and is not on her side. When Wanda's going back in, you notice that the barrier is blue. Wanda's her power color is red. So when she goes in, she touches the barrier, it does make the barrier red into her signature colors, which could mean that the barrier that was put up was not originally her that did it. Later on in the episode, we do find out that she doesn't know how any of this started, but we'll go into this later. There's a commercial break that happens in this episode. In this commercial break, it talks about Lagos, and it's a paper towel brand, which is it's basically a Bounty brand commercial. It's basically a ripoff of Bounty. Lagos, for people that don't know, is the tragedy that happened in Civil War, where Crossbones tried to kill himself with Captain America. Wanda contained it. She threw him up, and it exploded on a building, killing some civilians, unfortunately. And that's what started the Sokovian Accords, which we do find out that SWORD is trying to enforce or is involved in heavily. But at the end of that commercial, if you listen closely, you hear blood dripping in the background still. It could indicate, the dead people from the Lagos incident. When we go down to Wanda and the kids finding Sparky over by Agnes's flower bed, you notice that the kids, and they kind of mentioned this earlier, or they talked a little bit about it earlier in the episode, but the kids know more about Wanda than what they should have. For example, like when they mentioned that she can bring people back from the dead and that she's done it before. Her children shouldn't know that because that's part of her past, and she never let anyone know about that for that matter. And when the kids mention that and Agnes finds out, she's very scared at the fact that she can bring people back from the dead. This could just be a regular civilian, response, or it could be that she could bring back someone that Agnes really doesn't want to bring back for any ulterior motives. Now, towards the end of the episode, after Vision buries, Sparky, you see, and you kind of notice this from the previous episode, that Vision's basically broken out of Wanda's control, and is questioning everything. Wanda still believes she can control Vision, however, because she does mention, can't I, when he's asked, you can't control me anymore. And so she tries to end the entire conversation by rolling the credits to stop Vision from questioning her and everything that's going on. Little fun fact there, the end credits are the actual staff of the people that are working on the show. Now, as Vision and Wanda are getting into an argument, you do notice he's scared, but he does mention that there are no kids in Westview. We kind of figured this out because in episode 2, there's a theme of for the children, for the children, for the children, but you never ever see any kids. This could be an indication of the comic origin with Mephisto trying to isolate the twins that Wanda has to make them grow up faster, so that way Mephisto could use Billy and Tommy to take control of Wanda's powers and restore himself. Could also be Agnes doing the exact same thing. We don't know. But like I mentioned earlier, Wanda does mention that she doesn't know how any of this started or how any of this happened. Kind of indicates that she isn't the cause of everything, as most people suspect, which rightfully so. I would suspect the exact same thing. But as they're finishing up this argument here, you do hear a doorbell ring, and you notice that Vision thinks that Wanda is the reason of the doorbell, whereas she said, I didn't do this, and you can tell she genuinely means that. So that would indicate that Wanda's not the only one in control here, or wasn't in control in the first place, which brings in the big reveal of Pietro being the one to pop in here. When you check out Pietro, you notice that he has a very red glow around him, which, like I said, is a very big theme that happens throughout this episode. And when he's walking into the house, you do see in the mirror two things. One, his hand is red. he doesn't have a human hand. He has a red hand, which could indicate that he is actually Mephisto transformed into Pietro to try to stay in control of Wanda and make her happy, so that way he can have her powers. And then you also see a gray undead arm pulling in Pietro into the house, basically saying, bring in the happiness, take out the unhappiness there. Now, we don't know what that gray undead arm is or what it can mean, but basically when Darcy mentions that Wanda recast Pietro, that it's not entirely true. Remember, this is the start of an unofficial trilogy with WandaVision, Spider-Man 3, and Doctor Strange 2 being the conclusion of it, which will be something that'll go over these next two phases, and it's essentially just multiverse madness. So this could just introduce the multiverse version of her brother. There's so much that happened in this episode. There's, like I said, 43 at least Easter eggs that I found, that all of us here found. I mean, if we missed any, let us know. If we misinterpret something, let us know. What else we could have found. If you agree with some of the things we found, let us know. Let us know your theories in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I appreciate you guys watching. If you guys want to see anything else or want to see more of these Easter eggs, let us know. And, like I said, appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you guys in the next video.